The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy, hello, everybody. Come to you cordless from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's Wednesday night, July 9th, 2025. I'm Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters Tonight. And I'm happy to tell you this is episode number 250 of this show. We've done 250 of these goddamn bastards. And somehow we pulled it off and still doing it. I just realized something. Yeah, we pulled it off. I don't think I can do this without making mistakes. So I just realized, we're taking calls tonight. I haven't turned on the phone mechanism. So I'm going to do that now and you're going to hear it. So here we go. Yeah, this is for you. You can do this. Yeah. Oh, listen to this. Here's a pretty sexy British lady.
Ready to connect. Click connect to show now.
Okay.
You are connected as the
That's
host.
right.
Welcome, host.
Welcome,
You are
host.
now in the host room
That's
and
me.
can manage your callers from the call-in studio web interface.
That's me. That's me. I think you heard all that. That's great. It's fantastic. Like a little behind the scenes thing. Yeah, we've done 250 shows. Who would have thunk it? Our guest tonight is Tim Conaway, and I'm glad he's here. I actually arranged to have him here tonight because I wanted at least some old friend here and not a new guest. Not that new guests are bad. I want to, and I said this last night too. I have a woman named Kimberly at a publicity firm in Washington, D.C., who's helping me book these shows now. And she's doing fantastic work. I mean, the guest we've had last night, Bill Walton, was on here, had a fantastic conversation with him. He worked on the Trump transition team in 2016. He's done a whole bunch of stuff. Night before that, Jeff Dornick, he runs pickaxe.com, which I strongly recommend you check out. If you're tired of X and all of Elon Musk's BS, if that bothers you, Pickaxe is probably the way to go. I'm going to talk to him about getting the show on here. I don't know what Pickaxe is still in beta, so I don't know where their technology is as far as broadcasting live video. I don't know, but I'm going to talk to him about it. We're gonna talk. We had a fantastic conversation with him. He was really knowledgeable guy. I have to say, go back and watch those. So as a matter of fact, so here's the deal. I got a little bit of announcement tonight. And that is now, starting this week, starting this Friday, that's the day after tomorrow, we are going to start running reruns on Friday nights because the reruns we've been running when we're not online, when we don't have a live show, we've been running reruns now for about 3 or 4 weeks. That's worked out very well. The viewership for our reruns has been almost as high as the viewership for the regular show. And I'm really glad to hear that because we have some pretty cool guests on, like I said. And it's nice that we repeat that they get some more exposure. So I don't know who we'll have. I haven't decided who we're going to have on Friday yet, but we'll have somebody. So that's for going forward from Friday night. Except I got a little exception here. I'm still not hoping. We're still planning on putting the show on TikTok. Believe it or not. I mean, now it appears that according to President Trump, that there is a buyer, American buyer for TikTok. And they're going to start their transition, which I think they decided the transition will be done in late September. So the way this is going to work, and it's really crazy, if you're into TikTok, you're going to have to download a new app. So all your videos will be there, all your account information, everything will be there, but you still have to download a new app because they're basically transferring this massive amount of data from Chinese servers to American servers. And then so you're going to download a new to get to TikTok. I'm assuming they're going to keep the name. I'm assuming that. And so then, yes, and that will be the transition. And for a short period of time, both those apps are going to work. But after, I think they're saying after September or something like that. Or I mean, I might have this. This is all talk right now. I don't know if they know what they're talking about. Anyway, we're going to put the show on TikTok, and I'm hoping that's going to happen after Labor Day. Now, the problem with this is, if you want to call it a problem, you can broadcast live on TikTok, and we will, but only the first hour of the show will get on. We'll get cut off after 60 minutes. On Fridays, though, the plan right now, the reason I brought this up about us doing these reruns on Friday nights, on Fridays, we're planning on doing selected Fridays. Selected means I don't have anything else going on. That's what selected means. That we're going to do live shows on TikTok, TikTok only show. Because the thing is, if you're not on TikTok, if you don't know this, it's very easy if you're running a live broadcast on TikTok from other members to call in. They don't need a phone, all that sort of crap. If you're logged into your TikTok account, you can call into a live show. And so we're going to do a TikTok only show on quote unquote selected Fridays. Now, Conaway's waiting. I don't want to keep him waiting too much. We do have the phone lines open now. The sexy British lady did announce that. 325 Jim, 325-225-5546. If you want to talk to Tim, we're going to keep him open while Tim's on. If you want to talk to him, got a question for him. He used to edit Hustler magazine. That probably interests you, right? You're probably an old pervert horn dog like the rest of us. I mean, who are we kidding? There's probably 5 women who've ever watched this show ever. Seriously. No, really, seriously. I used to work for Kong News, and we did live radio broadcasts on Broadcast Radio for Kong News. And I think in the 4 years we did them, I think we had maybe 2 women call up, and one was the niece of one of the guys on the panel. So it was like a relative. I mean, so yeah, no, it's like, who we're kidding. But yeah, so yeah, you can call and talk to Tim. Yeah, call and talk dirty to him, and he probably likes that, fine. Yeah, so 325-225, call Jim. No, 325-225-5546, and you can text us if you want. If you don't want to interact with us and you think we're just, boring horn dogs, text us at 408-458-5088. There's the numbers on the bottom of the screen there. They're going to scroll by the entire time. So I want to tell you what we got to, we're boomers here. We got it going on. You know that, right? I don't know why the hell I love that phrase. It bugs my wife to no end. I got it going on, whatever. Okay, tonight, Tim Conaway. Tomorrow night, our old friend Larry Newman. Got two old friends in a row because Gary Gallus, the economist, had to transfer. He's going to come on Wednesday night, July 30th now. So if we haven't updated the front page of the website yet. It actually says get Gary Gallus, but no, it's going to be Larry Newman tomorrow night. Gallus is coming on the 30th. Monday, we're taking off for family event. Tuesday, Spencer Morrison. He's the author of Reshore, How Tariffs Bring Our Jobs Home and Revive the American Dream. And, Conaway might have something to say about this, because I know that we had a panel discussion last Monday on the show, and Tim, and I think that was the discussion. Tim and the panel and the other 2 people on the panel did not really agree on this. So I'm curious to see what's on Tim's mind. Anyway, yeah. So this guy's written this book. He is the editor-in-chief of the National Economics Editorial. Wednesday, Shaz Khan, his book is called The Ultimate Vaccine Timeline, and it's a book all about vaccines. Now, the amazing thing is, he is not a doctor. He's not. He just decided to write a book. He's written a book about vaccines, good and bad, history of them, whole thing. It'll be really interesting what he has to say and what that's about. I'm probably going to try to read that book before that interview because I'm curious on the subject too. And Thursday night, Keith Gross, who's written the book called, he is the former assistant attorney, state attorney for the state of Florida. And he wrote a book called Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. That's next Thursday. And once again, like I said, I'm not going to announce them ahead of time because I don't even know what they're going to be. I mean, on Thursday, Friday morning, I'm probably going to plug these reruns for Friday night. So all I can tell you is we will have reruns on Friday night. That's what I'm telling you. So yeah, we got calls tonight. You can call us up, 325 call Jim, and you can talk to Tim Conaway. He's coming on in 12 seconds. Watch this. Hey, look at that. Yeah, 250. Look at that. We did 250. Can you imagine how the hell did we pull that off? How the hell did we do it?
It's pretty amazing, Jim. That is a big number. That's a lot of shows. So
Yeah, it's
congratulations.
about one bigger than 249.
But yeah, when you consider, I mean, how many shows that is, that's going back. And of course, for me, time, is it's you've been doing this for a while, obviously, to get to
Yeah.
250, but it doesn't seem that long ago that you started this. So
No, well, it's going to be 2 years on July 31st. So you're right. It has that, but yeah, so unfortunately, if you do some math, that means we've only done an average of 2.5 shows a week.
yeah, but
know?
even that is, it's a lot of stuff to do. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate you coming on too. Always something that's interesting to say, and you've had an interesting life. I don't know if you read the description I posted for today's show, and I'll read that to you because I thought you might find it humorous. It says here, for our 250th episode tonight, Jim is joined by our old friend, former Hustler magazine executive editor, Tim Conaway, who will regale us with stories of the old days when half-naked women were running around the office of his gentleman's magazine, and HR didn't mind because it was part of his job.
Unfortunately, that's not true. Everybody always thought, oh, wow, you got naked girls running around, and I'm chasing them down the hall with a dildo in each hand. But, but the fact is, there were never any naked girls there. We were doing a magazine, and, the contents were racy. We had pictures of naked girls, but, we were all working to put a magazine together, same as putting together Newsweek or Vogue or any other magazine. We were, just there doing the work. And
yeah, but you still had to approve the pictures of the naked women.
Well, those were approved by Larry.
Oh,
because,
okay.
We had 4 photographers who shot exclusively for Hustler. And so they were the ones who were seeing the actual live naked women.
Yeah.
And the studio, they had their own studios. I mean, one guy shot in Paris and other places. Another guy had a house down in Cabo, and so he'd take models down there and shoot. And then the studio was out in Chatsworth, as far away from the office as they could get it. So yeah, it was very very rare to be anywhere where there was an actual live naked.
But I do want to point out that Anna Winter did not have the same modus operandi. She was not working the same way you were.
Yeah. Well, she probably seen a lot more naked women at these fashion shows than live naked women up close and personal. But yeah, it was work. It was a job doing the thing. There were the fun parts.
No, you're a very modest guy, because the fact of the matter is the success of Hustler happened during your tenure. And I mean, you should be, seriously, you did a damn good job. That magazine exploded the 15 years you were there.
Well, it did well, but I think the 90% of the credit went to Larry, who, it was his idea and his ideas about what to do. He kind of shaped the voice of the magazine, and there were some of us who were capable of interpreting his concept and being able to execute it. And so getting the job done was, I'm pretty good at getting the job done. But
it was, well, would you describe it? It was like Playboy for a working class guy. Is that kind of?
Yeah, that was exactly it. It was the blue collar version of it. Of course, Larry started showing Pink, and let's say the mainstream men's magazines at the time didn't do that. They would show the pubic hair, they would full frontal nudity, but Playboy and Penthouse weren't really doing that. And Larry started doing, the pussy spread wide open and pictures. So that was another thing. But
Well, hold on. Let me ask you something though. From some guy who's seen zillions of pictures, and I'm definitely including male genitalia in this too. Human genitalia is pretty damn ugly, don't you think?
yeah, well, if you study it, if you look at it from just a the neutral perception, yeah, it's not really the
Yeah,
greatest looking
from an
stuff in the world.
aesthetic consideration, correct. That's what I
Yeah,
mean. Right. Yes.
yeah, if you look at it as sexual stuff, then it's a little bit different. But yeah, there's it it's not all that attractive, but uh, the photographers did a great job of making the models look hot when they were doing this, of getting them to be appealing. It isn't just, you can have a picture of any woman naked. And unfortunately, the modern internet is loaded with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But without the right lighting and the right posing and the right attitudes and that kind of stuff.
And hold on, let me interrupt you here. For all basic practical purposes, you had no computer manipulation of images either, did you?
Well, no, I mean, we're talking in the 70s and up to the 80s. It wasn't until the mid 80s, late 80s, that we were actually able to get computers involved
Right.
in
Right.
that. Um, there was some retouching and stuff to take out, maybe some unwanted wrinkles here and there, or
Yeah.
shadows or something like that. But we weren't really, there was no computer generated anything
Right.
going on at that time. So yeah, the photographers had to do an ace job of getting the shots, getting the right exposure, focus, lighting, and then getting the girls to really look like they were feeling sexy, feeling erotic, ready for that guy out there, whoever he was, uh, whoever
Builder.
whoever paid the cover price of the magazine, getting that guy, think, oh wow, I could have this woman. She wants me,
Yeah.
and
She does. She wants you. So don't you think? I mean, I did not plan on talking about this at all, but don't you think it's kind of sad that in a way with AI, maybe an entire human art's going to be lost here? I mean, at some point, you're going to be able to produce oodles of pornographic content just with computers and no humans involved whatsoever. It's already started.
well, yeah. I mean, and if you see the thing with AI, I'm not impressed by it, and
Well, yet though, Tim. I mean, give it a year or two.
well, I'd say more, give it 10 or 20 years
All right.
before it's really functioning the way everybody is all jazzed up about it. But, if the AI gets the right input, if they went back to, there was a model in 70, I think it was 1975, a centerfold, this platinum blonde, and man, she was beautiful, and her photos, she was really, really hot in those. So he goes back and takes a look at that, and gets the lighting and the mood and the, all that kind of stuff as a starting point for these kind of things. There were many more over the years, but I particularly remember that one. That's kind of when I first started working there. I didn't work on that issue, but it came out, it came off the presses, I think the week that I started there. And yeah, she was, just the ideal, everything that, that Larry wanted for the turn on value.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever come to any conclusion of, I mean, talking about this woman, about why, I mean, I'll say specifically women, but generally people in general, why the camera seems to love some people more than others? Because I don't think it has anything to do with necessarily how beautiful you are in real life. I mean, all right, I'm just going to,
Yeah.
I'm going to elaborate here. There's some, if you're involved in this business long enough, there's some people who are very attractive in real life, and for some reason it doesn't seem to transfer onto film or video, and vice versa. There's
Yeah.
people who have you ever did you ever give it any thought of why this is?
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, one scientific factor is that the camera is two dimensional. The image is two dimensional,
Uh-huh.
and so sometimes I think that has a lot to do with the effect on it. One person that comes to mind, and she didn't do porn, but Heather Locklear was beautiful, beautiful actress, and and she looked really very pretty, very hot on camera, and the roles that she did. I saw her in person a few times, and I actually, she stopped to talk to me when she needed directions. I was walking to lunch in Beverly Hills, and she stopped and asked me for directions to someplace. And so I got a real close look at her, and it was like the camera did not do her justice. And as pretty as she looked on that, it didn't capture just the whole beauty of her.
Yeah.
So that's one case in point where looked beautiful on film, but even more so in life. And some other people who aren't in person, you're not really knocked over by them, but they get in front of the camera, and man, they've got that look. So I think it has something to do with that two-dimensional quality, but there's some kind also, some people have an aura, and I think that gets picked up. That's they're beaming some energy or something, and that gets picked up too. So it's hard to know until you've got the picture of the person.
I'm going back about 25 years now. I was performing at a fundraiser, a very large fundraiser for some nonprofit organization. A couple thousand people were there. A lot of money was being raised. And a woman running the thing, I'm one of the featured performers, and she says, do you want, I'm trying to think now who this, it was Pat Miles was her name. I don't even remember this, or it goes back. She was a local anchor on a local TV station, and she came off pretty well on camera. She was a beautiful woman. She says, Pat Miles is the celebrity chair. You want to meet her? I said, yeah, sure. That's fine. So I remember I'm standing there, and she turned around to shake my hands, and I looked at this woman. I thought, my God, you have the single most beautiful pair of eyes I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was just like I got hit in the head with a brick, but it's exactly like you're talking about. She was even way more beautiful in real life than she was on camera. And she was pretty good looking on camera, but I couldn't get over it. The dichotomy of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Yeah. And three-dimensional versus two-dimensional, and, the person, and in person, the vibe that people give off makes it a big difference. There were a lot of models. Models came into the office to get, I'd get a series of Polaroids taken of them, and then Larry would go through the Polaroids and say this one, that one, and.
Tim, was it pretty much open door? I mean, did women just come to the office and say, I want to be in Hustler? And
no, I don't think it was that often that women came in. Usually, they showed up with my boyfriend, Bobby, that kind of stuff. There might have been some. And then there were, the photographers were looking. There were people associated with the magazine that would see people and invite them to come in. So if they came in alone, it was because of that. I can't say that it never happened, but I don't think it was very common that somebody just showed up on their own and said, I want to be a model in here. But anyway, the Polaroids, they looked okay and stuff, but when the photographers did the shots of them, they looked really hot. So that the camera and lighting, have a lot to do with how
I'm
anybody looks.
assuming that Larry was also one of these guys that had a really good eye. He could tell who was going to look better being dolled up,
Yeah, well, it was he had whatever was in his mind, whatever his standards were. Yeah, he would react to them, and uh, not everybody who came in got photographed, and of course we had just like 3 men's magazines at the time there, but the photographer, we had some other photographers who they were allowed to shoot for other people. They shot for us sometimes, shot for other people, and they would look at the files, and sometimes they picked somebody. As long as it wasn't somebody we were using, they could go ahead and contact them.
Hey, I've never asked you this. Did Larry know Hugh Hefner?
I think they talked once or twice.
Did you know Hugh Hefner?
I never met him. We never got invited out to the Hefner mansion, the Playboy mansion, and when we were in LA.
Oh, you were kind of competitors, so that's kind of understandable.
Yeah, there was that. But I think they may have talked on the phone a couple of times. I don't know if they ever met in person. That there was a sort of a rivalry there.
Yeah.
And then Bob Guccione, who did Penthouse, I don't think there was ever any contact with Guccione.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that guy. It's just I won't say he give me the creeps, but there's always something a little off there. I don't know what the hell it was. I don't think that about Larry or F, but I did about Guccione. It's like I don't know what's going on. But who knows? What do I know?
Yeah. Well, I never met him. His whole operation was in New York and never crossed paths.
Yeah. So before we went on the air here, you said, what did you say you want to talk about? Primal what?
Oh, the Prime Directive.
All right. Okay. And what do you mean?
Well, it's survival of the species is the Prime Directive. And, the strongest survive. And early humans, not that they didn't have some intellectual capacity, but they were driven mainly by survival. And it was survival was tough, and it's part modern. I don't know what field it is that they talk about this, or where they study this, but they're saying that it's in the primal directive in men is to spread the seed. You weren't supposed to stay home, stay with the tribe, supposed to go out other places,
right,
and impregnate women.
And the other thing is, just staying with the tribe is dangerous because you don't want to impregnate anybody in the tribe, because then you get, the thing about DNA seems to be built into our, there's just you don't fuck your sister, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, the results aren't going to be good. You're not going to get.
And for some reason, that's never been explained to us, but we all know that. It's
So guys are supposed to go out and spread the seed, and not have one woman that they're constantly having kids with, but spread it around. And the women too weren't supposed to have just the one guy, but the women, they were more in a fixed location and raising the kids. And of course, the tribe raised the kids. It wasn't so much like mom and dad. The world that we live in now is so far away from that, mom and dad. But eventually, society kind of, made that marital thing and monogamy kind of happen. Society isn't always guided by the right tools. And back in the day, of course, early on, life expectancy was, if a woman lived past 20, a childbearing woman lived past 20, it was pretty amazing.
That's true.
Didn't die in childbirth or just from the strain. And even guys didn't live much past, 30.
In the Roman Empire, the average age of a human was 31.
Yeah. So So, we don't have some of the issues that we look at today, but as soon as a woman became physically able to bear children, and, so we're talking about 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds, they were getting pregnant and stuff. That even continued up, well, in different cultures, Greek and Roman cultures and stuff. You have as early as possible, because that's they're the most likely to survive and to have a surviving child in the thing. And in those cultures, the extended family kind of looked after the children. It wasn't, just families today. Everybody kind of separates out and does their own thing. They're not living all next to each other. They're not even in the same town. And of course, today we recognize that, 13, 14, 15-year-old girls, the teenage girls, don't have the mental maturity to be child bearers, to be mothers in the society that we live in. And
Did you say the 14-year-old girl or the 54-year-old girl?
well, there's that. If they're having kids at 54, that's a whole different problem. But when I was thinking about this the other day, I was reminded of William Johnson, who was a Bureau of Indian Affairs. He was an Indian agent. I don't know if they called it the Bureau of Indian Affairs in those days back in the 1800s, late 1800s. And so he went around to all these tribes in the New England area, the League of Six Nations, so Mohawks and Iroquois and Seneca and like that. And it was their practice when a man from outside the tribe came in and was staying there, that they would send 2 or 3 young girls over at night for this guy to pick one and mate with, so that they would, keep the fresh blood. And but Johnson didn't understand he was supposed to pick one. They sent 3 girls over to him this first time that this happened. And he thought, great, I got 3 girls here. So he, had sex with all of them. And it is said that Johnson, and there's no proof of this, but it could very likely be true, that Johnson sired more than 300 children in the League of Six Nations during his tenure in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I'm sure he made it a point to travel and visit the tribes as often as possible. So even as recently as then, that phenomenon was happening. But again, the tribe was taking care of the children, and it didn't matter who the man was. If they were born to an Iroquois mother, they were Iroquois.
Right.
Or Seneca mother, they were Seneca. A lot of tribes were like that. So, it's fairly recent history that's going on, but society now is so segmented and so different that the primal directive is totally ignored. And I'm not trying to be cruel, but we go out of our way to support the weak and the helpless, when in the older societies, if the people couldn't make it on their own, they were a burden to the other people who were trying to make it. And so they were pretty much left to die. Babies born with deformities or inabilities were taken down to the creek and drowned. It was.
Well, you bring up an interesting point here, because it's a matter of degree, because you are right. I mean, the question is, do we accommodate the old and the weak, or do we actually like prop them up? And someone would say that's a small difference, but I don't know, that could be a big difference. And then you're also right in the fact that we're actually going to prop them up and what's the word I'm looking for? Not like feature them, or it's like, is that because they're old and weak? Should we do that? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's, and, we have the capability in our society to take care of many of these people or provide for them. But I just know that, some parents with kids with disabilities, you can see the strain on them from doing the extra work to take care of them. And of course, they love their kids and they're going to do it and all that kind of stuff. But that we live in a society around the world where survival of the fittest, the strongest survive, the strongest keep the population going, is no longer favored,
Right.
let alone practice. It's no longer in favor, and we see the weak, uh, all sorts of weak, rise to the top sometimes. So anyway, this pops into my head every now and then, the prime directive, and just wondering if we still practiced, if we were still guided first and foremost by the survival of the species and the strongest survive, then what kind of world would this be? Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind here. What you're talking about. First of all, about the fact that getting back to what we're joking about before, about the fact that these people, being that we're talking about like Native American Indian tribes or
Mhm.
whatever, had some sort of unconscious or intuitive understanding of genetics. So it's like you said, they if a new guy came into the village, they would send women over to accommodate him because they wanted some new blood in the village, right?
Yeah.
And everyone seemed to understand that was good for the stock. And so there's that.
Yeah.
And first of all, the reason I bring that up is it's kind of fascinating that human understood that, even though there was no scientific basis for it at the time. It turns out that's true. Then,
Yeah, well, I think they had the experiences of the inbred, the
right,
results from inbreeding.
right.
They had seen that, so
But you think about how many thousands of generations you have to go through to understand even that concept,
oh yeah, yeah,
And
uh,
then the second thing is that if you're going to go under your current understanding, which I agree with, I think you're right about the fact that we are no longer, if we're at least if we're not even if we're not featuring or quote unquote featuring the old and the sick, at least we're propping them up. You could go under the assumption that eventually, after thousands of years of that, it's going to seriously degrade the human race. You could do that too.
yeah, and then how far do you go with this? Because you do genetic testing. This was the big thing. AI right now, the big whoop de doo over AI reminds me of when people finally kind of broke the DNA codes and got the gene codes figured out. It's like, oh well, next they're going to do genetic testing, and only the people with the best genes are going to do that, and they're going to check, the fetus and see what its genetic code is, and if it's likely to have this and that, and uh, all that kind of stuff. Of course, that never really came about. That's too
No.
extreme even for the 95% of the people in the world who are just followers
Yeah.
to go along with. But
I want to get back something you said at the very beginning of this discussion about the fact that that up until recently, relatively recently, life was hard,
yeah,
and I would say that was you don't even have to go back 100 years even. I mean, there's been roughly 12, 15,000 years of human civilization, not even just human civilization. 15,000 years of that, and only in the less than the last 100 years have we got to the point where we figured out how to make life not hard. And then you get to the last 30 years, for the vast majority of Americans, it's downright easy.
oh yeah,
There's nothing difficult in basic living anymore. Now, Jeff Dornick was on the show on Monday night. We were talking. His big thing was AI too, and he's talking about the fact about AI and employment, and it gets to the
yeah,
fact that humans are kind of just like you were talking about, that we're set up to basically that the strongest should survive. His thing is, well, humans are built to struggle, and if there's no struggle, we're going to get seriously fucked up. And I would say that you could make that current assumption or statement about even the current generation. I think that the generation, especially Generation Z, that was raised on social media,
Mm.
there's no struggle in their lives whatsoever. So they're literally creating it.
Yeah, well, or there's no real struggle. uh, yeah, and so they're creating these issues, but because they've never faced any real struggle, they don't know how to deal with genuine hardships.
Yeah, right.
And
That
yeah,
too.
that's
Yeah.
a big problem.
And they don't. I mean, the thing is, I'm constantly we take this for almost for granted now, but you watch television, and first of all, I find it amazing that the government actually runs television commercials. This is, to me, this like out of 1984, but everything is supposed to be so freaking safe, you know?
Hmm.
And I just like, no, first, we don't need that sort of safety. We're fine. Everything, yeah, one out of every 10 million people might get killed by some strange, weird accident, but it's an anomaly. I mean, no, there's a general rule. We don't need the government or anybody looking after our real safety. And yet you see it everywhere constantly. And then you're talking about Google's running ads about safety online. How freaking unsafe can online be? What, are you going to die? It's like, no,
Yeah.
are you?
Well, and you see, they're talking about not falling for scams and not getting, this kind of
Yeah,
stuff. But yeah, there are all these make believe ogres out there that we're supposed to confront, and it is all bullshit. The government, from my standpoint, it's big and noisy. Everybody talks about it all the time, but the government is really uh, just like walking to a hatch of gnats. They're not. It's the government shouldn't have the power that it's assumed for itself, but ultimately it doesn't really have that power over
no, that's
everybody. They
true.
want power over everybody, and it's like, no, people go through their lives. People could go through their lives day after day, and if they never had an interaction with government, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah.
They,
So actually, that brings me up to one of the things I want to talk to you about tonight about this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. So, I assume you're up to speed on this as of at least,
well, yeah, my wife keeps me up to date on all these things with Epstein and Muskie and Taco and
yeah. but, but there are some ramifications here because, all of a sudden the government said, yeah, he just killed himself. He wasn't murdered. There's no client list. There's nothing to see here. And it's like people are saying, well, wait a minute, and so I'm talking with Bill Walton, guys, been around everywhere, has done everything. And he was talking about this, and I ran this theory about it, and I didn't know this at the time. I thought of this myself, but he said I wasn't the only person talking about this. That the reason that they've shut the door on this is because there's 535 elected officials in Congress.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's say 100 of them were involved in this, that if you had to like cancel out the careers of 100 people basically at the same time, it would literally bring down the whole federal government. And that maybe that's the reason they've decided not to do anything about this.
Yeah. Well, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Well,
It's the same kind of thing. You start digging into this shit, and as like you say, you get these. Now, I don't see. I believe that if you had 100 of these weak, pathetic, and we're talking about the weak, moving up.
yeah, but believe it or not, that's the real reason I brought this up, is because you were talking about the strong surviving. That's actually the tie here.
These weak, pathetic, self-serving dicks and dickesses in the Congress. If we got rid of them, a hundred of them at once, it wouldn't. The wheel would keep spinning. The river keeps flowing. It doesn't. There'd have to be a bunch of special elections,
Right.
which would provide some kind of comedy. But yeah, well, again, I have been given every detail about Epstein's prison stay and conditions, and his cellmate and then no cellmate, and what he had in his cell and what he didn't have, and when the guards were supposed to come by and when they didn't come by, and all this other kind of shit. Um, so yeah, we'll never know the truth about that.
No, the one difference here though is that you could say, well, 12 people somewhere know about the whole thing, the truth about Lee Harvey Oswald. Here, there should be a whole bunch of people in the government who actually know the truth here, and we're never going to find out. That's maybe.
Oh yeah, oh, yeah.
You know,
it's not going to happen. We're not going to know, and.
Well, and I have to stop you for a second. I'm having lunch with a friend today, and he said, and this is what you're alluding to. He said, well, okay, so let's say 100 congressmen are involved in this. 100 congressmen get caught having sex with underage girls, right? And the whole brings down the whole government. Well, maybe we need to do that. Maybe the public needs to see how much of scumbags these people are.
Well, that's it. And again, I don't think it would bring down the whole government. I think you pin this on these people. You're able to demonstrate that it happened. You clear all that out. The ones that are remaining, it gets a warning thing, but then people are going to, maybe pay a little bit more attention to who they're voting for, and who the person is. It would be a good thing to clean it out. It's just like if you don't scrub the toilet every now and then it just becomes as crusted with the shit flakes, and so that's where the Congress is at.
That is the 250 shows. That's the best analogy that's ever been on here. Well, the other thing is, and I'll tie it to this Mamdani guy running for for mayor of New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Republicans. There's even there's a whole bunch of people trying to stop this. And I'm thinking, and our old boss Jeff Meyer at Calling News, he was saying this all the time. Maybe if that's who the New Yorkers want to elect it, maybe that's the government they should have. He'll destroy it, but maybe it should be destroyed.
But all these people in this, and like you say, both of the parties, my brother-in-law and I were talking when we were visiting there at the end of spring, and he's talking about some of these companies that they openly support, like Musk openly supporting Trump and this kind of stuff. He said, the real companies and smart companies, they funnel money into both parties. They funnel money into both campaigns.
Right.
They're not taking a chance on picking the winner. They're behind whoever it is that wins, that they've done that kind of stuff. So, when you've got somebody like Epstein who can peddle influence, or find a way to gain influence, he's not going to just do it with Republicans or just with Democrats. It's going to be across the board.
The other thing, getting back to Epstein, see, I don't really care too much about the individual components of this. I don't care if he killed himself, was murdered. I don't care if he was blackmailing people or not. But I do find it really interesting that no one really I don't know if you know this. Nobody really knows where he got his money. Supposedly he was a stock trader, right? But there's no record of him or any firm that he ever ran trading stocks. There's no record of it. Now, Walton said, I've heard rumors for years that he was actually an operative for the CIA. Walton last night said, and he would know better than me, he's way more connected than I am. He said that the rumors he's heard is that Epstein was an operative for the Israeli government or Mossad or whatever the Israeli secret service is. That's what he heard, and that would make sense too. It was actually
it's hard for somebody to operate like that and also make billions of dollars. But it's more likely he was some kind of go-between, a broker, who got money from both sides. A fixer, a deal maker. Those kind of things. I never looked into it. They said he was a billionaire, but even that could be bullshit. a, a billionaire who ends up in jail is not very effective.
Yeah, that's true.
Jim, you're scanning the screen. It looks like
Yeah,
something big is happening.
I'm looking at my list of things I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh, okay.
But we managed for 50 minutes here, and I haven't had to look at it yet. So,
Oh, okay.
but I do have something on the list I do want to talk to you about, and that is this Ketanji Jackson Brown Jackson. I said Jackson Brown. No, it's Brown Jackson. This woman who's
Yeah.
the latest
Supreme
Supreme Court justice.
Court-ish.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my opinion here. This woman doesn't belong here, and I don't mean that from an ideological standpoint. I mean it mostly from an intelligence standpoint. I just get the impression that there's 9 justices, and yeah, 3 of them are liberals, and that's fine. It's like, but I don't think she's of the intelligence of all the rest of the 8 of them, and I'm starting to think that they're having this thing about this recent ruling about whether district court judges could prevail over the president,
Mhm.
and that was very complex. It's way more complex than people think it is. But in her majority opinion, Coney Barrett just completely shredded Jackson by name, and that hasn't happened ever. It's like, I mean, I think they're getting tired of it.
Yeah, well, I was suspect when she was first nominated for it, and looking at her credentials and her background and stuff. I mean, for somebody to get appointed to the Supreme Court, usually there's a history of judicial, federal judicial level
Right.
activity that's noteworthy, as well as academic legal scholarship.
Right.
But there's a combination of the two. They should all be constitutional scholars, whether formally or just to their interest. And I didn't see that she had any of that kind of stuff.
No, she had no federal experience at all, which was very unusual. She was a trial court judge. Yes, she was.
Yeah.
Not at any federal level.
But a trial court is not the same as doing federal level appeals, making constitutional judgments, and that's why I just found her appointment odd. But it came out of the Biden administration. He didn't appoint her. It was done by whoever was on the group of people that wanted to get somebody in there.
So, Tim, I've never asked you this point blank though. How out of it do you think Biden was? At least maybe the last 2 years. I mean,
Well, I don't think he was ever in it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking so much about the dementia or those kind of things.
Yeah.
I'm talking about he was a true figurehead. He only got that nomination because he felt it was owed to him, and he put in all the years, and he could make a stink out of things if he didn't get his shot. And but I don't think he was making decisions. I don't think he was calling any kind of shots. The whole group of people that were involved behind the scenes there were doing all that kind of stuff, and he was occasionally appearing, for this or that. So yeah, I don't think he had the faintest idea who this Brown Jackson was, or many of the other people that he appointed. There was no push from the Biden administration for any important legislation. There were some little things here and there. So he was strictly a figurehead from the beginning.
This gets back to your this whole discussion, bringing it full circle, and that is, twice Bernie Sanders was basically denied the Democratic nomination because somebody in the party thought he was too extreme. But the thing is, if he's the popular candidate, shouldn't just let him run? I mean, I would never vote for Bernie, and I would be opposed to his presidency, but I don't think he was capable of destroying the republic. I don't think he would.
Well, who gets the nomination is based on who's brought in money. Biden was a senator for 37 years. He was a vice president under Obama for 8 years. He helped bring in a lot of money to the Democratic Party. And, as I always say, it's the Democratic National Corporation and the Republican National Corporation.
Right.
They're big money corporations. And whoever are the best salespeople get rewarded. Bernie was not that kind of guy. He wasn't generating big money. He wasn't generating, they looked at him and they thought he's not going to be able to bring in the billions of dollars that flow through our corporation in all these various ways as a presidential candidate or even any other kind of candidate.
But do you think they would have come to that conclusion if they concluded he could win? I mean, okay, so yeah, he's not a rainmaker, but let's say that, I mean, I actually don't even know. I don't know if he could have won or not, but he was obviously the favorite of liberals,
Yeah, but it doesn't, I don't think they ever get that far. Rewarding the people who have brought in the coin to the party, is the way that it works. And, even with Trump, I don't think that a lot of the people in the Republican Party actually like Trump or even favor a lot of his ideas, but he's brought in more money than anybody in the history of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So, that's why this second time around, they let him in, and because they could have talked. Well, I don't know if they could have talked him out of it. They could have talked him out of running with the party, probably, or favored somebody else. But he was bringing in billions of fucking dollars, and that's all that matters to these parties. It's all that matters to these politicians. How much money can I make out of this for myself? The people in Congress get rich doing what anybody else would be charged with insider trading for doing. They do it, because the laws don't apply to them. They charge these huge speaking fees. They make a ton of money doing this, and that's why they're there. They're not there to serve the people or to take care of business. They're all there to make as much money as they can.
Now, I think I've told you this before. The last survey I saw of congressional staffers, which I think was about 4 years ago, like some survey asked them, these are the staffers, the staff of the people in Congress, whether their person they worked for was in government to serve the people or for their own self-interest, and 90% of them said it was for their own self-interest.
Oh yeah. It's obvious, and they don't even really try to hide it. They just go about their business, and when somebody raises a question about this issue, it's just like, I'm following all the rules, I'm filling out all the forms, I'm doing all that kind of stuff. But they never say, oh no, I put the citizens of the United States or the citizens of my state, my district, ahead of my own interests. They can't lie that big, I guess.
Yeah, there was this. I can't remember the name of this guy off the top of my head. He was appointed by Jesse Ventura, the governor of Minnesota, because there was a 1 month gap. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I wasn't here then.
Okay, there was a 1 month gap in somebody's Senate tenure, and they had to appoint somebody senator for a month. And the reason this was so absolutely coveted was because you went to Washington for a month, and you were basically set for the rest of your life. Between pensions, or whatever it was. It's like that was, and and I can't. He ended up giving it to his chief of his campaign, I think it was, Ventura did, and I can't remember that guy's name. But yeah, so this guy was he now runs around with, he can call himself senator for the rest of his life.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he was senator for 1 month, and God bless him, he's never going to have to work again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You just trade off that name and that popularity.
What do you have coming up here in the you got vacations? What do you got coming up yourself?
No, summer's real busy for me. I'm with the Lions, and we do a program called KidSight where we do free vision screening for kids. We have a high-tech device, and it's real quick and easy, but it scans for signs of 7 different vision problems. And so um, last year, our Lions year is more like a fiscal year from July 1st to 24 to June 30th of 25 in Minnesota and Manitoba and Southern Ontario. That's the geographic district that we all work in. We scanned 75,803 kids, and 11,157 of them needed referrals to an eye care professional. We can scan kids as young as 6 months old, so we can catch vision problems before they become learning problems. What we also get, we do schools, and we find kids, 11, 12, 13 that also have vision problems that have been undetected. So the summer, we do this at a lot of community events, the local city festivals and county fairs, and in August, there are all kind of back to school events. I've got, I think, right now about 14 days in August blocked out for stuff that I'll be doing, and other clubs around our area here in Hennepin County are doing things as well. The back to school festivals, kids come in and can get a backpack with school supplies in it and that kind of stuff that's donated by local companies, and so we see a lot of kids. So that's pretty much what's up for me. Making sawdust out in my garage, doing some woodworking and trying not to cut off any large parts of myself while I do that, and then sleeping late.
Yeah, God bless you, sir. You're actually doing like real work. It's pretty amazing. I mean,
Yeah, keeping at it, as we
we
talked
we can sit
earlier.
here and bitch and moan about people not caring, and yet here you are. You actually care. So it's like
Yeah, yes, I did one last night, and I'm approaching parents, saying, give them my little speech about what we're doing, and the woman says, "Well, they've both just been to the eye doctor. Said we did this last year, and we found out they needed to see an eye doctor, and now we take them in regularly to do it."
that's good.
So when you hear that, and that's not the first time I've heard it, and that's really what kind of got me hooked on this, because I've heard that a number of times that, oh, we found out my kid needed glasses, she got glasses, and now she's doing better in school and all that kind of stuff. So when you see the results, it makes it easier to uh, give the time and to participate.
Does your test for dyslexia? Can you do that?
No, this is
Right.
it's called a refractive test. So it looks for signs of nearsightedness, farsightedness, blurry vision, uh, pupils misaligned, uh, one one eye working harder than the other, and one pupil larger than the other. And a couple of those can be signs of something called lazy eye, commonly called lazy eye, and which, if not caught early enough, can lead to blindness. So, another one of them there is kind of also kind of serious. If we get one of those, we like for people to see right away, because there could be some underlying condition that has happened, and that has happened where people have gone right away and they found out that there was a real serious problem behind the eye. So, so yeah, it tests for a lot of stuff. Doesn't test for color blindness or for dyslexia, or, and it can also find cataracts, but we don't. I don't know that. Well, and all the time I've been doing this for like 8 years, and we've never had cataracts come up with a kid.
Yeah, right.
The device we use can scan any age, but we focus on the kids because they're the ones who need it most and are least likely, particularly the young kids, least likely to know that they have a problem.
Well, getting back to what you were talking about at the very beginning, we take in our society, we basically take glasses for granted. It's like, and then you stop and think about, for the vast majority of human history, we didn't have them.
Yeah.
I'm legally blind without mine, and I would probably be useless if 400, 500 years ago if I was living in the dark ages.
Well, and that's kind of the thing I was talking about. If people couldn't see well enough to make their tools, or to hunt, or to farm, to do kind of things like that, they were not going to survive.
Yeah.
Everybody had to pull their own weight, and so yeah, it was a long time before there was any kind of corrective lenses involved in doing things.
Yeah.
And just think of all the guys back when women were running around almost naked, and these guys just couldn't see them. Yeah, it was. How did they survive?
Man, you just brought the whole hour full circle. All right, my friend, I'm going to let you go. I really, really want to thank you for coming on here. This is very enjoyable.
Yeah, well, we just again, we've got to bring this up here. 250.
Yeah.
Big night.
Yeah, big night. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You made it a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. So we'll talk to you soon. Okay, you take care.
All right, take care now. Bye.
See ya. Our thanks to Tim Conaway. Always enjoyable having him on. Yes, our 250th show. Call up if you want to talk. You should have called up and talked to Tim. 325 call Jim. 325 call 225 5546 on the bottom of the screen here. So part 2 of our show, I call it the Jimcast now, because I don't know what else to call it. Because we kind of talk about the news, but it's usually stuff you've never heard of that isn't actually in the news, stuff that happens. Here's something that's happening. And this is I brought this up because it's kind of deceptive. So Google's going to be starting to test their Waymo taxi service, that they're completely autonomous driving vehicles in Philadelphia and New York City. So now the way this has gone up to now is that these rides have been completely free, because they're technically testing the system, and they're running it like Miami, Phoenix, I think maybe Dallas. But the thing different here is, this is the first time they're going to run them in, for lack of a better term, snowable environments that have snow, which was always considered, that's kind of the holy grail of getting these autonomous driving things to work. Is that apparently up to now they have not worked very well in the snow, which is the reason here in Minneapolis, probably the very last place we'll see them. Because the thing is, you have to understand here, once they get this working, it's not just going to be a taxi service going to be running. They're going to be selling vehicles with this, and you won't have to drive anymore. And I got to admit, that sounds fine to me. Now, my prediction is what's going to happen is these things will be mounted in basically mobile home-like vehicles, where people are going to be basically I'm going to say living in their car to make it funny, but really they're going to be living in their vehicle, and their vehicle is basically going to be a small apartment, and it's going to be on wheels, and you'll be able to take it anywhere you want, so you won't have to take a car to work. You'll be living in your house, and your house will drive you to work if you have to go to work into work. Otherwise you're going to be parked in a parking lot at Walmart somewhere, or more in realistically, somebody will set up car parks where you can do that. I'm serious. That's what I think the future is. That we're probably 40, 50 years away from that, but I bet you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are going to be living in vehicles because it's going to be relatively cheap and relatively convenient. And the thing is, it's a vehicle you don't need to drive. I mean, right now you could do that right now. I think of the very famous thing about Bill Gates, one of the richest guys in the world. Bill Gates does not have a chauffeur, or a limousine. Bill Gates he bought a bunch of airport rental car vehicles and tricked them out, and he has an office in one that he drives a little private office that somebody drives him around. But you still have to have a driver. Up till now you had to have a driver to do that. Now you won't have to have a driver anymore. You'll just be able to buy your office or your little apartment on wheels, and you'll be able to drive all over the place. And yeah, I'm convinced that's going to happen because it will be relatively inexpensive. So that'll be interesting. That's my prediction. I don't know if I'll be around to see that happen, but I'm just telling you right now. Keep track on your scorecards at home, and 50 years from now we'll find out if I'm right. So yeah, there's that. And also, and this is great. So we talked about this with Bill Walton last night on the show. Barbara Streisand says that the world better start paying attention to climate change because all this stuff happening in Texas and everywhere where all this terrible weather is all being being caused by climate change, and she's full of shit. Why do people who are really good at one thing, like singing, and make millions and millions of dollars at it, think they know about everything? That's the real question I want to know here. Is like, yes, there's a lot of people, you can make a lot of money being very good at one specific thing, but do you know what you're talking about? No. So Bill Walton's on the show last night, and he belongs to something called, if I'm right, it's called the CO2 group. And it's a group out of Washington, D.C., whose mission is to convince the public that, well, it's not just specifically that CO2 is not only bad, it's not just bad, it's actually good. We need CO2 in the environment. I've been saying this for ages. He's invited me to join this group, and I'm going to join this group because, yeah, the public needs to hear this. Climate change, or what more specifically, human caused climate change, is the biggest single grift ever run on the American public. There's nothing to it. Nothing. Now, global warming is real. And see, this is the problem here. They've taken something that's very complex, which when you stop and think about it, is basically the way everything in American or world life runs now. They try to boil a very complex problem or concept down to a very simple 2 sentences, and then they try to sell it to you. So I've said this on the show a million times. I don't care. I'm going to keep repeating it because people need to hear it. There's a difference between global warming and climate change. Global warming is the world warming up. Yes, the world has been warming up for at least 300 years. We know that. And there's a kind of a smoking gun in that whole thing about the fact that if the world's been warming up for 300 years, there's only been about 150 years of industrialization on the planet, which means for the first half of that time, humans could not have caused any of it. And it's still, the temperature still went up. It's still going up. That stuff about the glaciers melting in certain parts of the world, that's real. I mean, it's like there's no doubt about that. No real serious scientist doubts this. But then you get to climate change, which is the assumption, the implication is human caused climate change. Are humans causing the climate change? Well, depends on who you ask, but most people are really serious about this. It's either very little or not at all. As a matter of fact, that's the big debate, whether there's any effect on it. That the effect is so small that it's almost unmeasurable. Now, it might be minor, but it's certainly not major. Humans are not causing this. And also, the other thing is, yeah, there's really bad weather. Get over it. It's called weather. Oh my God, I have to say, these floods in Texas, from just a meteorological standpoint, are fascinating. I mean, I hate to say all these people died. It's really, really tragic. It's terrible. But yeah, the fact that they had like the on this river, the it went up like 20 feet in like 4 hours or something like that. How the hell does that happen? I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's really, really, you could not, people are saying, well, there was no warning or anything. How could you warn against this? This like doesn't happen ever. I mean, talk about an anomaly. It's like, my God, but still, it's not climate change, it's weather. You have to understand this. And I can produce statistics till you're blue in the face about the fact that you can make an argument that there's been weather cycles on Earth in the last 100 years that have been way worse than the ones in the last 20. I mean, I can give you statistics galore, and nobody ever seemed to manage to making a big deal out of it because it was weather. It's like getting back to what Conaway and I were talking about. People are still, I don't understand where you, the public, not you, dear viewer, I understand, you're smart, you're watching the show, how you can get the idea that, that bad things never happen ever, or they're not supposed to. It's like, it's just absurd. It's ridiculous. I saw a meme recently. Matter of fact, I clipped it. I'm going to put it on the front page. If you go to the front page at Gemini.com, we have a series I think there's about 60 different memes there that kind of rotate or random, depending on, what your screen, when you access the page. If you hit the refresh button, you'll get another one. I wanted to add this one, and it's a graphic of England, like 1975 and today. And so 1975, there's a whole bunch of temperatures as in Celsius. 30 degrees in Celsius is really, really freaking hot. It's like over 90, right, in Fahrenheit. And so there's all these temperatures, and so the temperatures are right on the map. And then you look at the map today, same temperatures, and something in giant letters that says heat warning. It's like danger. Same temperatures. Yeah. So Barbara Streisand, thank you very much for blessing us with your intelligence and foresight there. That's great. That's fantastic that you know what you're talking about. You don't. Really, seriously. I mean, this is one of those things, shut up and sing. You don't know what you're talking about. And so why do you think you should get on the Twitter machine and broadcast your feelings because you felt something or something? I don't know. I don't. Really pisses me off. It really does. So I'm going. Bill Walton has invited me to join the CO2 group, and I'm going to. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation. I'm flattered and honored. So I'm going to do that because you guys should hear about this. So, and I guess that's it for tonight, folks. We're going to can it. I want to thank Tim Conaway. Tomorrow night, Larry Newman's here, another old friend, bail bondsman extraordinaire, Bigfoot investigator for the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. We'll ask him he's tracked down and chasing across the country to skip bail and Bigfoot. Because I don't think Bigfoot's skipping bail because Bigfoot's never been arrested as far as anybody knows. He's talked about this too. There's a rumor running around for years that during one of the California wildfires of a few years ago, that in the middle of the wildfire, some of the people from the Department of Interior actually captured a Bigfoot. That's been going on forever. And the reason they captured it is because it was very injured. It got stuck on the fire and it was injured. And so they actually did, shipped it to safety. But at any rate, they found it. So I want to talk to Bruce Solheim comes on here. Now, this is really interesting, too. This never happened. He was on here about 2-3 weeks ago. His show that we broadcast that night was not recorded anywhere. Nowhere. I mean, it's like, we're on 5 different outlets or 6, something like that. And also, we do a recording backup here in our studio so that we have a copy of the show in case anything goes wrong. Supposedly all our broadcast outlets are supposed to record the show. Not only did none of them record our show, our internal local backup failed. There's no recording of that show anywhere. I have no freaking idea why. We had some speculation. He speculated about the fact that we played an AI tune he wrote that was recorded by AI and it tripped some filters somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, and I get paranoid, and the thing is, he's not only he deals with UFOs, but apparently he knows people in the government. And I don't, I really, it's like, that's real paranoia, and I know it, but you know what? It's like, all right, I've done 240 shows. There's 6 places where this recording failed, at least 6, maybe more. What the hell? What is that about? Anyway, Bruce communicates with an extraterrestrial that he calls Anzar, or that's named himself Anzar. And Bruce has said that he's been talking to this guy since he was a kid, and says he still does on basically a weekly basis, roughly. And I've been meaning to ask him about Bigfoot, because the thing is, no one, like last night I'm watching the show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. It's the thing on the History Channel. It's basically one of the knockoffs of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. And you have to understand something, folks. They're not over dramatizing that television show. This place is really, the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. It's really, really freaking weird. I mean, Jazz Shaw used to come on the show and used to talk about this. He was invited to go there and he declined, believe it or not. And he was a hardcore researcher. And he said he declined because he had heard the stories, and I've heard them too, that virtually everybody who goes to that ranch has this crap follow them home or when they leave. It's like that. Yeah, it's basically, it's like kid zoo. You can't get rid of it. And when I mean that stuff, I mean all that paranormal activity. It follows everybody everywhere, which is just really weird. And you think, well, that's stupid. And there's scientists who do the same thing. Well, no, that's stupid. That's not going to happen. And then they go there and then they see orbs in their house and they're wondering what the hell's going on, And so, yeah, Jazz declined, and I don't blame him. I don't think I'd go either. I don't. So these guys, they're out there, they're running all these experiments and stuff, and all they get is just really, really bizarre results. So now there's a group of people are going to other places that are trying to scientifically investigate anomalous activity. And the one I watched and the reason I watched it, I actually stayed up late last night to watch it, was the one because I can't record stuff. Well, I can, except I know me, if I record it, I won't watch it. The UFO crash in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. And why did I bring this up here? Oh yeah, our old friend Stan Gordon was on that show. So he was actually one of the researcher people that were talking on the show, and so he's been on the show before, and he has shifted his life's work basically from investigating UFOs to investigating Bigfoot, because he's come to the conclusion Bigfoot's way more fascinating, and it is in the way that nobody can figure out what the hell's going on here. First of all, I will just go on a limb and say, and I'm getting betting odds. I'm not certain on this, that Bigfoot is real. I think it is. It seems to be. But even then the question is, what is it? And he said, and I've heard the same thing I heard, but what he told us on this program, that there's a paranormal aspect to Bigfoot that simply can't be explained. And specifically, it's that there's a whole bunch of people who come in contact or come face to face with Bigfoot, and they say they see Bigfoot disappear right before their eyes. Poof, gone. Woman said she was standing 6 feet away from one, and it disappeared right in front of her. That's just one example. And there's constant stories of this. And he said there's too many stories to discount. There's something going on here. And yeah, I don't know what it is either. I hear the same stories. So what I've decided I want to ask Anzar. I've asked Anzar through Solheim. I've asked Solheim to ask Anzar a question, and Anzar did answer it, even though Solheim did not know what the question was about, and the answer was credible. So I want to ask Anzar what the hell Bigfoot's about. So maybe we'll get some answer. We're going to have, because that show did not record, we're going to have already arranging to have Bruce on in August. So he's going to come back. But it was the weirdest damn thing. 6 recordings of this program failed, including one locally here in the studio while we're doing the show. That failed too. Can you explain that? I can't. I can't explain it. That's crazy crap. That is. And that's my life. So anyway, Larry Newman's on tomorrow night. We're taking Monday off because I got to go help my cousin. And that's the reason. Yeah. So, and Tuesday, I think it's Spencer Morrison is here, if I'm right. Spencer Morrison on Tuesday. So, folks, thanks for watching. I enjoy doing this immensely. I really do. I really appreciate you watching. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the guests for coming on. We get uh, the better and better guests all the time. As I think the word's gotten out here that we do a good job. Mr. Walton was very complimentary last night. I appreciate that too. So anyway, thanks to Tim Conaway. Tomorrow night, Larry Newman. Good night, Esperanza, and good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are, and good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Take care.